So I know the video is gonna come out a little bit crooked, but it's alright. Um, so this video is something I've thought for a couple years. Shout out to Joey, who already made this video, JVW or something like that. I don't remember, but shout out to him for it. And it's basically how ssris ruined my life, and I'm gonna try my best to make it through it. This is not for attention from me. This is for anybody out there, any man, anyone that's affected by ssris or on them, that it was kind of prescribed to them when they were just having some issues that could have been dealt with other ways. So my whole life I'd been depressed, anxious, and I used to live with, I still live with my mom, but when we lived together, we lived with my grandparents, and we lived in a room, me, her, and my brother. And I was tired all the time, anxious all the time, depressed all the time. And my going through stuff with my dad at the time, like it just, everything affected me. Even if it didn't affect me, like I was just always low mood all the time. And that happened. That was all my life. Like I'd take naps throughout high school and just be tired and exhausted all the time, and it really affected my social life because it made me like not want to talk to people. It made me very antisocial. It made me very just kind of like anxious about everything, just in general. So I kind of kept to myself. And then and later on, when I ended up going to college, like I thought it was just me. So then I kind of made this persona, or like changed myself into a being who I thought I really was. And when I got to college at 17 through 21, 22, 20, JC, I was living the best years of my life. I was in great shape. I was getting great grades. I had great ambitions to go to USC, UCLA film schools, and I had grades and I had portfolios to accompany that. I had huge dreams, and but at the same time, like during those years, I would, after school, like after college, I would still take naps throughout the day. I would still always be constantly tired, and when I was 20, I got into this relationship with somebody, and and I had all these issues, and we had been contemplating moving to Colorado, and that kind of put me in a funk, and that made my OCD worse than it has ever been, to where I was having panic attacks and just intrusive thoughts that were just killing me and debilitating, that I couldn't stop. So at the age of I think it was 20, we went to the doctor, and they prescribed me those antidepressants, Zoloft and all that. And I think that was the first one I tried. I'm not sure. It was one of them. But I know at first I tried benzos, and benzos worked pretty well for me because I could take them when I wanted to. I didn't take them all the time. And that was fine because I could take them one day and then not take them the next day, or not take them for a week and then take one when I needed it. And people got addicted to them, but I never got addicted to them. But I eventually ended up getting up on the ssris after having like the series of kind of like mini panic attacks in my head. And when that happened, I was with someone who I really cared about deeply, and I was very ambitious, and I had high dreams and high goals, and to finish college and finish school, my JC, and transfer out to go somewhere better. And man, I was a good looking guy. I was in shape. I was in great shape, and nothing medical was an issue. Like, I have asthma, but like back then I didn't have it, or like I did have it, but I didn't need to take my inhaler. I was in such good shape that I could just, it wasn't there. Like, it wasn't there unless I was like maybe smoking or doing something stupid, but it wasn't nearly as bad as it is today. But anyways, I know I'm getting off topic. I ended up getting up on the ssris when I was 20, and once I got on the ssris, it was like I didn't know what I was getting into. No one told me any side effects. No one said this, that, or the third. We know what would accompany it. Anyway, once I got on that, like, the love that I had for that woman at the time wasn't the same. I I was more numb than anything, and like, my decision making wasn't the same, because once you deplete, when you're on the medication, you deplete your dopamine, which is your pleasure system. And if you're not getting any of your feel good hormones, then your logic is changed. Your whole brain has changed. All your thinking has changed. So if you're numb to emotions, you're not going to be making the same decisions you would as if you weren't numb to those emotions. So now I seen a decline in like the relationship. Just looking back, like, at the time I didn't know what the hell was going on, but like, now looking back, I can kind of take perspective and look at the way things change. And then, like, I've lost so much memory from being on them, but I know a general idea of how it altered and messed with me. I can't give too many examples, because like, my memories from those times are kind of depleted. A lot of my memories from my 20s, or just from any age, are kind of depleted because of them. But anyway, back on track is I just fell into a stump, and it was never like I needed to be with her anymore, or wanted to be with her anymore, because it made everything be like, oh, okay, if she leaves, okay, if she doesn't leave, okay, if she doesn't leave, I'll find somebody else, okay. But like, I wasn't thinking right, because like, it takes your emotions out of the game, and it just makes everything okay. It doesn't make anything good, it doesn't make anything bad, it makes everything okay. But before I got on them, I wasn't okay. I was great, I was good, I was here. But once I started taking them, it made everything just a flat line of emotions. No ability to cry, no ability to like smile and really enjoy smiling. Any smile I did was like fabricated, because you don't feel happiness, you don't feel emotions. Or I didn't. I mean, some other people might be different, but this is just my experience. And so times would, when those times happen, it's just I was just, I didn't know I was struggling, because to me, everything was okay. Like, but looking back at it now, it's like, I was here, and I was at a level, I was focused, I was doing college stuff, I was focused on my grind, focused on a career, on getting out of this shitty ass town, in a shitty ass valley and just making a name for myself, and just because it's something I felt like I was born to do or something I needed to do. So like I ended up with that girl. The relationship just went downwards spiral. Um, we were supposed to have a kid. We didn't end up having a kid. Do the math, and I just made a lot of stupid decisions during those times. And a lot of the friends that I had, I was great with. You know, I was friends with everyone. Like I had friends everywhere, all over the campus. And this is not trying to be like, hey, like I'm a popular person, but I just love people. I'm a big fan of people, and different people from different backgrounds, different perspectives, different, you know, older, younger. It doesn't matter. I was friends with everyone on that campus. And it's not because, you know, like, oh, I gotta be the cool guy. It's not an ego thing. It's because like I just enjoy people, and I enjoy knowing about other people, no matter who it is, because I come from a tough background and stuff here and there. So it's like I don't judge anyone, and but after being on those meds, it kind of made me super weird, and it just made me so different and so in my head that like I wasn't the same personality, the same person that talked to everybody. I wasn't the same person that enjoyed everyone's company or just kicked it with everyone and enjoyed it and just lived my personality. Every time I kicked it with people from that point on, like I had fun and, you know, smile and giggle, laugh, get drunk, or just chill out, but it was never like 100% genuine the way it was before. And and that right there that was rough. And the longer I went on with the ssris, the worse it got, obviously. And so we ended up breaking up, and like after that I got accepted to Sac State, where I was gonna go to attend school, but my anxiety on meds was possibly worse than without. And like it was just stuff that held me back. Like it held me back from a lot of stuff. And so when I went, like I was gonna go, I was there for a few days, and I was like, no, I can't do this because I was too far from home. When in reality, like my point was to get out of home. It was never a second thought in my mind that I needed to get the hell out of here in order to make something happen. I mean, I know you can make stuff happen wherever you want, but that was my goal. And like before meds, it was like that's what I was gonna do, and there was no second thought about it. But once I dipped, I had so many second thoughts and just questioning myself and all kinds of stuff. And I got accepted for what I wanted to do, which was like digital media journalism type and video type stuff. And you know, that's what I wanted to do. But like in my head just wasn't right anymore. I wasn't focused. I'm a really creative person, and at that time, with my emotions or with the ssris, I was not creative anymore. I didn't have any of my own ideas anymore. It was pretty basic. Like I didn't have the same drive, the same like, oh, I'm gonna go do this and do great. I had every doubt that I had a possibility was coming to my head. None of the positive ones, because before it's like I knew all the doubts and that wasn't an issue. I still wanted to go ahead because I wanted to embrace the suck, embrace whatever challenges that I had to come that way, and I knew that was part of the learning process. And that's what I wanted. But like when I was on meds, it made it completely opposite. It made everything, oh, what if this goes wrong? What if this goes bad? Oh, what if this doesn't escalate, go to the way I want it? Because my brain wasn't all the way thinking. I wasn't confident anymore. I didn't have that self-esteem anymore. I didn't have that fucking drive anymore. And I just, it killed me. So I didn't end up staying there. Ended up coming home, ended up enrolling in like a Fresno Pacific course, where like I was the same type of thing. Like I was in it, but I wasn't in it, and so I dropped out of that. Even though I got an A in my first class or whatever, but like I tried to go to Fresno State. I went to Fresno State, and at that point when I went to Fresno State, I tried quitting the ssris, and when I did, I was great. I was doing great the whole semester, the whole entire semester. I was doing great. Friends with all kinds of people, talking to all kinds of people, like working people with projects, talking to volleyball chicks, softball chicks. I was living a good life, and my libido was an issue, which like the more went on, the more it became an issue. But like once I got off the meds again, I was good, and I was like, okay, this is the way life is supposed to be. I felt great, and the whole semester I was doing great, but I was smoking a lot of weed, and I was using that for like kind of like my vice to like for my anxiety, and it was working for a long time, and I was doing great in a lot of my classes. I wrote a lot of in my journalism classes that I was taking. I wrote a lot of A+ papers, and 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 I felt good. I felt good again. I felt like me. But eventually, I was at a party that week, one of the weekends, and it gave me like a panic attack, and and that panic attack lasted for like a week or 2 weeks, and this was like close to like finals, and this panic attack made me to the point to where like, hey, like I'm not going to school, and so I dropped out of my classes. I dropped two of them. Two of them I just effed out and just stopped showing up. And but obviously that looks back bad at my transcripts and records. But yeah, I was doing great. I was back to normal, and I felt like I was doing what I was meant to do. I was maybe like 23, 24 at the time, and it was perfect. It was perfect. Life was perfect. I was also working at the time too. I was working on the days I didn't go to school, and it was working. It was I was doing school Tuesdays and Thursdays all day, and I was working Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but only like 4 hours a day, and I was doing fine in all my classes and everything. And just that panic attack ruined it and made me like drop out, and I tried to go back next semester, and it just wasn't the same. I was too embarrassed. I was too bitter. I just felt ashamed. So I ended up just working. Shout out to all the people that work in factories and stuff like that. But like, that was never a goal of mine to do that. And I started doing all kinds of factory work and worked at after school program, which I really loved. And and I worked factory jobs too. And just for people that do that, man, I just could never do it. Props to you guys, but it's just a hard life for me, and that's something I never wanted. I wanted to do like journalism, video journalism, or like video making, whatever, something like that, and like, or radio, still do, but it was a tough situation, and I wish I could have stuck it out looking back on it now. But years later, and like I was working after school program where I was working 4 or 5 hours a day, and I wasn't making shit, but it was like really fulfilling. But like at the end of the day, you gotta make money, and I wasn't making shit, and like just my whole mind was not right. Like I wasn't thinking right, and it made me feel like shit. I mean, it makes me feel like shit now, but so eventually years pass, boom, 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 pass, and like I get back on the meds again, after the whole stint at the college, thinking that like, hey, I don't really need these. Like I was doing fine without them. I was me without them again. I was great without them again, and I was back in shape. I was getting good grades, writing A+ papers, and passing my tests, and I was great, and my ambition was back. My ambition to get something going was back, and yeah, but I ended up getting back on meds and just never looking back like I needed to finish anything, and so I just worked, and I just hate that life. So I felt like it wasn't meant for me. Like the whole 9 to 5 bullshit. I felt like I was meant to do something else. Like media, video, journalism. Maybe even city planning. I was always looking at as well. And but like when I once you get on those meds, you don't have that pleasure, and you don't get pleasure from doing anything specifically. That includes sex, that includes everything. And like I missed out on a lot of opportunities with females pretty females that I could have gone at. There's girls that used to come up and talk to me and like get at me and like that were really attractive, and I was just at a point to where I wasn't fucking gay or anything, but no offense to those gay people or anything, but it's just had no interest in sex. I had no interest in women. I had no interest in anything sexually, and everything. And before believe me, I got around, and I was kind of a man whore at the time. When I was, before I was on them, between like 18 to like 21, 22, without, besides the girlfriend, outside of the girlfriend, I was hanging out with some beautiful women, and like some were friends, some were girls I would hook up with, some were girlfriends, some, and it wasn't an issue, and that was, but when my SSRIs destroyed my 20s, and those are times when you're supposed to have the most fun, or like that's what I thought, and I was having the most fun, and like it kind of just rained on my parade and just ruined all the great times I could have had and would have been having, because I had the opportunity. Hey, come, let's go over here to spring break, let's go do this, let's go to the club, let's go to frat parties. I'd go to frat parties, but I wouldn't enjoy them the right way because I was always like kind of out of it. I'd be drinking and having a good time, but I was just really content. I was never like I said, your emotions don't get high or low. It's always just flat. So like sometimes I get invited and I'd look like a freaking weirdo because I was just like always just normal. I wasn't ever like naturally enjoying myself like everyone else in the world does. I was very robotic, I guess. And yeah, but all those times I was in great shape too. And but once I got back on the SSRIs, it like slowed my metabolism, got me out of shape. And let's fast forward to a few years back. Well, my whole thing was like, I don't, maybe it's a TMI, but I kind of wanted to get in like the industry and like video, stuff like that. But it didn't matter either way. I just wanted to do something that would use my creative juices, whether that radio, journalism, being a cameraman, being a screenwriter, or anything of the sort, and just live, like embrace the journey, and I was never afraid of that. But once I was on the SSRIs, I was afraid of that. It did take away my OCD, don't get me wrong, but I later ended up finding out what the real culprit was. And about a couple years ago, I got tested for this had happened before. I went to doctors when I was 20, in my 20s, telling them, hey doc, I'm not sleeping right. And they would always say, you're young, you're fine, there's no issue. You're young, you're fine, there's no issue. They always brush it off. A few years ago, bless her heart, I went to this and after a certain time I stopped asking, because I asked probably 2 or 3 times, probably like 3 times, and each time a different doctor would say, oh, I'd be in there for something else, and then I'd ask them about it. And they'd be like, no, you're fine. So then I got kind of embarrassed, like, okay, maybe I am fine. I had a friend at the time who had a CPAP, and like I asked him about how to get tested, but I never acted on it back then when I was 20. But like when I was like later on in my 20s, that's when I started asking about it, and they were like, no, you're fine, you're good. And so a few years ago, I went in for a sleep study, and they're like, so we're not, if you're fine, we're good. If you stop breathing 3 times within 2 hours, then we're gonna wake you up and attach you to a machine. So I crashed out the a comfortable spot, watching my favorite show, Impractical Jokers, and had all this stuff touch my head, all sticky and everything like that. I have a picture, but I go to sleep, and they wake me up less than 2 hours later, and they're like, yeah, you've stopped breathing 3 times, and it hadn't been 2 hours. So I'd stopped breathing 3 times in those 2 hours. And so they're like, hey, so they had me sleep with the CPAP with the nasal pillows. And I slept good that day. I felt rested. That was like the first time I ever felt like legit rested. So I ended up getting a CPAP a few years ago. That's when things got better. But a lot of the damage was already done. So I was still on my meds, but I was convinced like this would be an issue. This would help me. But at that time, like I was already way overweight. I'm still overweight, but at that time I was like 210. I was like 205. I was really obese, really out of it. And lazy. And I just, I felt better right away. And so last year, February 2019, was the last time I took any ssris. But it's already done a lot of damage to my body. My lungs are not the same. My metabolism is not the same. And it was a struggle. It's still a struggle. Sure. So I had a feeling my, testosterone levels might have been low. I hesitated on getting tested because I'm so deathly afraid of needles. But I did have a job last year where I was working and lifting a lot of weight and stuff, and I was doing great. And the testosterone didn't seem like it was an issue, but I still didn't have that drive. I didn't have that motivation, but I was working my job, and I was working and, using my arms, a lot of heavy lifting and stuff like that. So I eventually got tested this year. I was thinking, hey, maybe if I wait it out, maybe it'll come back. Maybe my drive will come back. Maybe my test will come back. Because there had been times where I go off the meds for a couple times. I tried it, and all my motivation and ambition and testosterone and my libido would come back. But then eventually I'd still have those same anxiety, OCD problems. After I started sleeping well, I didn't have as much as those OCD problems or anxiety. I still had anxiety, but I could deal with it. I could work on it. I could figure it out. I could slow my brain down and sort my thoughts, which my therapist always said to do, which I couldn't do on ssris. But at this point, I was able to do it myself. I was able to do that. And yeah, right now I'm struggling with anxiety again because, well, obviously it's COVID bullshit, but I have classes I need to sign up for that I haven't done. I just recently started TRT treatment. The problem is now that I have more lung problems, more chest problems, more, I don't know if it's heart issues or anything, but I know I have a lot more issues now. I have high triglycerides, I have high cholesterol, stuff I never had pre-24, 25. Whenever I got physicals, that was never an issue. Since getting off of ssris, I noticed my triglycerides were going down each time that I had went to the doctor. So I was like, okay, I'm fine, this is obviously poison for me. It's making my triglycerides and cholesterol go up, and I was in the pre-diabetes range. And so last year, after I got off the ssris, I was feeling anxious for a little time, and they put me back on them, and I tried them, and I was literally my body was resisting them. My body, I don't know if it was my mind or what it was, but literally my body was resisting them, and not even the heart palpitations and stuff like it did before, but just my body would get weak, my legs would get weak from like one dose. So I was on that for like a week, and then I just kicked them, and I haven't done them since. That was maybe in April for like a week, maybe half a week, and but now that I'm on TRT, I'm seeing other issues arise. So I went to the doctor today, and my triglycerides have gone up. My was it FSH and LH? I didn't know what those were. I still don't know the terms and everything, but those are really low. But I hear that's what happens when you're on TRT. And also, yeah, my cholesterol's gone up. Some glucose stuff has gone up. My triglycerides have gone back upwards. And something that I never had a problem with, which was a thyroid issue, has gone up. And it's just given me so much anxiety, because some of those issues in it themselves will give you anxiety. And it's hurting me, and it's killing me to think like being on TRT is going to give me a lot of side effects. Just like the ssris gave me a lot of side effects. Like the TRT might be great for me, but it might mess up other things. Or other things might be already messed up from the ssris, because I was on those for so long, and I've read so many people that don't recover from them physically. It's taken me a long time for my lungs to get back to how they are now, which is decent. Like I could run, but it's nowhere where I used to be. My lungs are still struggling. I never had to constantly take inhalers or medications. I'm getting heartburn all the time now as well. Like I never had issues like that. And like I just know being on the ssris, just being so out of shape for so long. I mean, I don't know what I know it had effect on my triglycerides, and I've read it other places. And I just wonder, like, had I never been on them, had I been sleeping properly throughout my life, how different it would have been. Because I have so many opportunities for so many things. And this ranged from different sport things, different chances to travel across Europe when I was a kid, like middle school. I got picked out of a few kids, and just different opportunities that I could have taken and seized from the day I was fucking born, because I hadn't been sleeping right my whole entire life, and I'd been depressed my whole entire life, and no one gave a fuck. No one cared. No one was like, hey, what's your issue? Let's try and figure it out. No one, when you're in a Mexican family, they don't care. It's just like you handle about your biz, and not until 3 years ago when I got that CPAP, I really felt like I started to really be awake in life. And I was in a terrible relationship with a toxic person that tarnished a bunch of friends who obviously weren't friends because they believed them. But that's besides the point. But what the point I'm trying to make is I made a bad decision, and that's one I wouldn't have made had I not been on the ssris. Because at that time in my life, I was so dependent for some kind of love and affection, because I wasn't getting that. I didn't love myself because of the antidepressants I was on, that I was seeking from somebody else, and I attracted a narcissist that tore my life apart. And at this point, it's like, oh man, I got bigger issues to worry about than that. But like that ruined a lot of friendships that I had for 10 plus years, because of like literally the evilest person in the world, maybe most evil person in the world. And there's stuff I could have done like differently, that I would have done differently had I been thinking right. Like I'm thinking right now because I'm on testosterone, and last year when I wasn't thinking right, because I was like depressed because I had like low testosterone. But I'm feeling better now, but I'm still struggling to see to be motivated right now, because now my thyroid is like way up, and apparently symptoms of having a really high thyroid is being tired, groggy, and all that type of stuff, and that's what I'm having right now. I took an estrogen blocker, which I thought was going to help, but it really tarnished and brought me down. And I don't know if that had any effect on it, because I know my estrogen's normal now, but now my thyroid is way up, and I'm just wondering, like, hey, like if I had never had to be on meds, if I never had these issues, would I have all these physical and these physical issues? And I don't think so. I really don't, because like people in my family don't really have these issues. I mean, unless they eat them, like diabetes runs, but it's usually like type 2, in which I was on the route for that, and if I don't watch that, I'm going to be on the route for that again. And I don't know if that's because of the medication. I don't know if it's because of just the TRT treatment. I don't know if it's because, I don't know what it's because. What it's because of. I don't, but I know that since taking it, like I have issues now that were going away. I have issues that were never prevalent in the first place. So now I'm like struggling right now, and it sucks because I'm not mentally into it, because now my thyroid's really high, and that messes with your emotions as well. And it makes me think, like, should I get back on the meds? Maybe I need to get back on the meds, but I really don't want to, because that's, like, to me, that's literally killed me. That part that should have been the best years of my life, and the most focused years of my life. Now I'm like over here just being happy to be alive. When before I was on my meds, I was like, I was never striving for anything less than greatness and you working to my potential every single day. Anybody that was my friend back in the day knows what I'm like, knew how I was. And I just, once I was on those meds, it turned me into a completely different person. I wasn't that same fun-loving, like humble person like anymore. I was just there. And I just want to warn people on ssris, like, it could be so many other issues. It could be medical issues. It could be vitamin D deficiencies. It could be low testosterone without being on the meds. It could be lack of sleep. For me, I really believe it was lack of sleep, lack of proper sleep apnea. You know what I mean? And just never having a good restful day of sleep. And so if you are having any kind of anxiety, depression issues, you're constantly tired all the time, get your sleep checked. If you're having any kind of issues like that, get your vitamin D levels checked. Get your vitamin B levels checked. Get your thyroid checked. Get your other body, other parts checked. But do whatever you can to make sure that the ssri is right for you, because they never tell you, oh, this is a possibility. This is a possibility that this could happen. There's a possibility that this could happen. There's a possibility that this could happen. Like, they don't tell you the side effects. They just, here, do this, you'll feel better. And temporarily you will. But then you realize that that's not the way you're supposed to be living. And then when you try to get off them, and you don't really, if it's something else, and you try to get off them, and you don't take care of the root issue, then you are going to be, it's going to be a cycle of dependency on that drug. And it's just like any other drug. It takes time to get out of your system. I don't know if it's completely left my system, but it does take time to get out of your system. And you need to be really careful. And that's just with anything. And just anyone with mental issues, just make sure you weigh your options. Make sure that, before you take any kind of ssri, you really research it. You get labs done, and get everything done. Get your sleep checked. Because I have a lot of people with sleep apnea in my family, but I guess I should have been using that. Like, man, look at my big old head and a big old neck, but like, apparently the doctor, as soon as she seen me, she's like, yeah, you probably have sleep apnea. Before we even got tested. So like, get tested for sleep apnea, and just do whatever little things you can do to make yourself feel better. Back 10 years from now, it was more of a shame to have mental issues. Now it's not a shame. Now it's not something to be ashamed of. But it was like kind of a stigma. It was like, oh, I have anxiety, I have OCD, I have different issues. Now it's like, what they never tell you is like, try to fix you. They try to fix you, and they try to say, to fix you so it'll go away. But that's the problem. And like, I never really as I was going through everything I was going through last year, like withdrawals coming off everything, I had a friend that she really helped me out a lot through the way, and for the first time being off the meds, I felt like man, like instead of trying to get rid of it, you live with it. And like I told her, I was like, you make me feel like it's okay to have these issues. Not that I need to get rid of them, but that I have them, and that it's okay to have them. And she's like, it is okay. And that's something like I don't know if all these issues are from medical issues and from the meds I had been on from years. I don't know if I do have some anxiety issues, but I just know how to deal with them better now. But like whatever issues you have, instead of trying to get rid of them, just deal with them and just accept them, because they're a part of you. You can't get rid of something that's a part of you. And just like anything, you could manage anything that's a part of you. Like when you want to get your arms bigger, you go to the gym, work out. It's the same way. Like you want your anxiety to go away, you work on your anxiety. And you gotta make it conscious to work on it. Don't just leave it at the end of your head and just think, oh, it's gonna go away. You work on it, and you accept it. But yeah, so anybody out there is struggling, depressed, especially during this whole COVID bullshit, like I hear you guys, and I mean I'm with you guys. I started writing like poetry and stuff again, like use like do outlets. People forget how to do hobbies, you know, like I forgot how to do hobbies, but they help, like writing, like rapping, singing, whatever, just karaoke songs, stupid, go dancing, whatever. But like everyone needs a hobby, and I was doing like recreation therapy for a little bit, and like you need your leisure time, like at least a little bit, whether it's playing a game or just something, enjoying company. But yeah, just anyone out there struggling with ssris, this is my story on how ssris pretty much ruined my life, and I'm still recovering, and how I'm worse off now, because now the TRT is has issues for me now, and I'm just worried and I'm scared. I'm very scared. So now this kind of was like a breaking point. Like in order to get back to normal, to where I should be, I have to endure some other obstacles and weigh my options on if I want to be depressed without testosterone, or if I want to be with testosterone and have to deal with so many more issues. But a lot of the physical issues came from being on those meds for years, and I know that for a fact. And I just want anyone out there contemplating ssris to be aware of what they're getting themselves into, because they definitely ruined my life. But peace to anyone. If anyone reads this, no one will probably see this, but if you do, I appreciate you. And yeah, have a good luck out there to everyone in their quarantine from COVID-19. Peace.